this World Cup will be something that we haven't seen before.
Hey everyone, Andy Petrillo here, and welcome to Just Soccer. Today we have a very special guest joining us, a true TFC legend, and third all-time leading goal scorer for the men's U.S. national team. It's Mr. Jozy Altidore. How you doing, my friend?
I'm great. Good to see you. Long time.
It's been way too long. So many fantastic memories of watching you play soccer. Obviously, in particular, with Toronto FC, Canadian market. So many people love you here. They miss you here. But here's the thing. We have to talk Canadian markets because you, of all people, know what that's like. And now, Thomas Müller, who's this player who has won everything. I mean, all you got to do is check his resume as well in the pro game, is moving to Vancouver Whitecaps. What do you make of that?
Yeah, I mean, Thomas Mueller, I mean, you look at what he's done with Bayern Munich, what he's done for the German national team, and a history of excellence, really. A consistent goal scorer, a consistent threat for a number of years, a guy that's kind of no nonsense in the way he approaches his profession, but off the field, a really nice personality, right? Full of jokes, loves talking to people. So when you look at the fit and you think about how guys like that, these type of personalities, vibe in MLS, I think it's a home run in a lot of ways. So I'm really excited to see both that serious, consistent goal scoring Thomas Müller, but also that personality that he brings off the field. I think he's a funny guy who likes to speak his mind and enjoy himself. So I look forward to seeing that.
Do you remember the first time that you were announced as a player with TFC and the reception you received and just how that felt?
Of course, I remember, and especially coming to Canada, it's a different animal. It's a different beast in so many ways. And for a guy like him, I think in a lot of better ways when you look at transition and what it's going to be like for him and his family to come to a new environment. So I remember it, the butterflies you have, all the things you need to think about when it comes to, moving your entire existence somewhere across the globe. So I'm sure it's an exciting time for him. Super excited to see what he can do in that market. And it's cool. It's cool to see MLS getting players like that and the talent kind of being spread out, right, to all these markets. So I'm excited to watch it.
I think the Whitecaps are ready. I mean, obviously, they were just in CONCACAF Champions Cup going all the way to the final. The fan base was just with that team on that entire ride. And TFC really set the tone for Canadian teams also being champions, obviously winning MLS Cup. What do you remember most also about winning that title in 2017 and how you also felt like it put a Canadian team on the MLS map?
Yeah, I mean, it was a surreal experience. I mean, even today, when you look at now, like what that meant, I think that's the beauty about sports. You do these things in real time, and you don't know the ripple effect, right? And now you look at kind of what that group did, and now kind of everybody that comes to the league is wanting to emulate that success. So that part is really cool. And I think the uniqueness of playing in a market like Toronto, which is a massive market we know in North America, it was one of one. The timing, everything put into one. So I hope to see that in Vancouver. It'd be great. I think what Vancouver has been able to build over the last 2-3 years, huge shout out to them. I know St. Ricketts has been there playing a huge role, getting to see guys like Jaden Nelson kind of get his time to kind of show what he can do. So I'm a big fan of what Vancouver's done. I think this adds another good piece to what they have. And, look at a guy like Ryan Gold. He's got to be happy to be able to play with a player of this caliber to kind of, add to what he's already done. So I'm excited to see what Vancouver can do and excited to see, the rest of the pieces they add because this can't be it for them.
It might be a difficult question to answer because I know so many factors have to come together to create a championship winning team and consistency. I mean, right off the hop, when I look at TFC, I'm like, oh, well, of course TFC was successful. They had you, Javinko, and Bradley. Like you were this three-headed monster, this incredible leadership as well on the team. But what else do you think makes a winning team? Like if you're looking at TFC right now and they're basically from the bottom, they got to build up top. What do you start to build around first, do you think, to make a championship team?
Yeah, I mean, it's a tricky question, right? I think you have to look at your market, what you have right now, the bare bones. And I think when you look at TFC, it's got to be getting that core right. When you talk about past teams and what they were good at, the core group was able to not only work well together, but also galvanize everybody else around them. So that's really important when you're looking at key players, when you're looking at, stars to kind of bring into the team. Are they able to lead a group? Are they able to come in with the right energy, the right attitude to not only do their job, but a little bit of everybody else's. So that's still the unique challenge of being a DP in MLS. And again, hate to always go back to Messi, but you've seen how Messi has taken the challenge. Not only has he come here with his family, as a player, constantly pushing the envelope, scoring goals, having assists, but he's also took a seat at, the boardroom, so to speak, and say, hey, we need this guy. Hey, we need help here. I mean, it's clear from the signings that they've brought in that these are guys that he's vetted, that he approves of. So I think, you liken it a little bit to like the NBA, where you have these guys come in and kind of say, hey, we need these pieces to become a championship caliber team. So I think you're starting to see that in MLS. And a big part of that is how Messi has come in, how he's looked at the challenge holistically, not just as a player, but long term. And I think it's wonderful, to be honest.
But let's pivot now, because we have a pretty big event that's going to be happening next year, and it's going to be happening on Canadian soil as well as US and Mexican soil. And that's another reason why I think the Canadian teams want to elevate their game, because the eyes of the world will be on them for the 2026 World Cup. And you've been a stalwart with the US men's national team, part of one of the most iconic generations as well in US soccer. This group has been criticized at times for not meeting expectations. What do you think is the biggest issue right now?
Yeah, look, I think, you have a group of guys that I think for a long time have been in a really high intensity environment, which comes with playing for the national team as young players, as well as, an incredibly charged, club team program and club team environments. And I think you're naturally going to have these dips. I think the toughest part for young players is consistency. And so I think when you're looking at this group and kind of the ebbs and flows, the dips in their form, it frustrates you. And I understand that. And that's a fair argument. But at the same time, I'd like to think, looking at this group of players and looking at their strengths and kind of what they're good at, when you arrive at a World Cup, when you arrive at a SoFi Stadium, 75,000, hopefully pro-American fans, you'd like to bet on this team kind of showing up and making sure that, they're doing things and playing in a way the country can be proud of. Is that easier said than done? Absolutely. Is that paving over the cracks? Maybe. But I think sometimes that's what it is, especially when you have big time players that sometimes play to the moment. Is that what you want to see all the time? Absolutely not. You want to see them be able to scrap it out and play in some of these environments that aren't as, sexy, so to speak. But I will say, this World Cup will be something that we haven't seen before since '94, right? So to think that these guys aren't ready, they're not locked in, I think is overstepping a bit. And I'd like to give them kind of that good grace and see, how they come out come next summer.
Okay, let's have a little bit of fun. If you were to compare your team to the current US men's national team, which group do you think would win the match?
It's not always that simple as we
Come
know.
on.
It's not. And I've said it before. I've said I think our team, we've had a special team, but look, I really like this group. I know these guys personally. I know how much they care. And I think, a lot of the situations they're in too is not fully themselves to blame, if that makes sense. I think, again, right, they were ushered into a situation where they had to grow up fast. And I think for a lot of it, I give them credit in how they've handled themselves. It hasn't been all perfect, but hey, they put our national team in a position where we can hopefully capitalize on, a tournament that, we've seen what the effects had on '94 and how it affected the kind of boom in soccer in this country. So now we're in prime position to do that again. Can we get this group? Can we get the fans and everybody around the game thinking more that way? And how can we collectively make this, a boom that is here to stay?
Is there a player right now, doesn't have to be on the Canadian or US men's national team, maybe it could just be global, that's just exciting you right now every time they take to the pitch?
Yeah. I feel like this is a cheap question right now, because I feel like my answer is going to be like everybody else's. Like, you mean Yamal? I mean, how can you not be excited at it? Right? It's just, at the time, 17 years old, and you watch it and you think, oh, he's not going to be better than he was last game, and then he does something else. And I think in a way, the sport, we always want to have somebody to watch and compare those big moments to. But in a way, it comes out of nowhere to see this young kid kind of take the mantle as, someone calling him the best young player, best prospect in the world right now. It's pretty impressive. And I think it says a lot about his competitiveness, his drive, because it's not easy to be that young and to be concerned with, keeping your team the biggest in the world. That's a hell of a challenge.
It really is. Do you see any of the guys becoming true faces of the sport for their countries? I mean, obviously, Lamine Yamal, I think, in many ways you've just said it, has kind of maybe taken that torch. I don't know. Like, that's what I also find exciting about the World Cup. Sometimes you're just introduced to players and they completely blow up and just become these icons afterwards, right? Like, I don't know
Yeah.
if there's anyone that you have right now that you feel is waiting in the wings.
I mean, I think we have a few that are, we're spoiled. But, you have Christian Pulisic, you have Alphonso Davies, right? Now you have Jonathan David making a big move, right? I think we have a number of guys that we have to make sure we watch now and we support, and we get out to these places and watch them and give them their flowers because at the end of the day, it's a collective effort, right? To continue to push the sport forward, to make sure when the mantle's passed on to you, you can look back and say, what did I do with it? And I think this group of players, for all the stuff we give them criticism about, listen, they've stepped up to the challenge. They've put their best foot forward and they've continued to kind of move along the sport. So I think we're lucky to have these players right now.
Oh, we need to do this more, mostly so I can just make you feel uncomfortable and go, no. But
Yeah, you
I
trying
love
to get me in trouble, man. You
it.
trying to clip my wings, Andy. I don't appreciate that, man.
No
Let me
way.
fly. Let me fly.
It's all about making you soar. And I love it. This was a ton of fun. It's been amazing catching up and hearing your thoughts on the game. And I'm serious. Let's try and do this. Let's try and do this again soon. Best of luck with everything moving forward. That is Jozy Altidore, everybody. Thank you for watching Just Soccer. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more big interviews and, of course, Canadian soccer content. See ya.
Awesome. See you.